Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So in this video we'll be looking into the last and the final part of the Express and Nunjucks series. So if you have seen my previous video on this series, I have shown you how you can set up the Nunjucks templating with an Express based app, right? So in this final part, I'll be showing you how you can use those APIs which I've shown you in one of my videos, which is this one, the mockable.io, where I've shown you how you can create your own API endpoints with some JSON data. So over here, I've shown you how you can create about, footer, header, and home. For that, the data, this is for the about route. This is the route basically over here, and it is a get call, and this is the data for it. It is basically an object, JSON object. So this is an endpoint. So these are the endpoints which I'll be using for this final part. So make sure, if you haven't seen that video, please do watch and come to this one. So this is started and it is working. So for example, if I copy this and open in a new tab, what I'll get is a JSON object, as you have seen. And if you are familiar with API calls and things like that, you basically do fetch data from an endpoint. This is the endpoint and this is the data. So using this data, will be creating a basic HTML kind of a template or a website, which I'll show you in a minute, using this data. So all our routes over here has certain data JSON object within that. So please do watch that video if you want to get more information on that. So I'll be using this endpoints, and in the previous video I have shown you how you can feed data using the response render method. So this is my route folder and this is about or home. So let's get into home, and I've shown you how you can use this specific method response.render with throwing an HTML page and some parameter as an object, second parameter as an object, right? So this is the home variable which will be used to inject data in a template. So see, this home variable or key is storing a object, which is this one, data from the API endpoint. So this is the API endpoint which I'm using to fetch that data and storing in this specific variable. So as in the previous video, uh, certain elements such as images and header tags, I've shown that it is taking an object and feeding into the template. So this is the variable home. This is the data which is coming from an endpoint, and I'm feeding it into the template directly using the Nunjucks templating. So this is the home. See this one, home one, and this is my home template. And as you can see, the h1 and the image are using that variable home and feeding data. So this is basically the Nunjucks formatting of how you can get data from an external API endpoint and directly show it into your template, right? So this is the format. Please do watch my previous video for this. And similarly, I've done the same for about has an API endpoint and a key or a value over here, and this is my template, and this is the data which is coming from that endpoint over here, right? So this is how you can get data from an endpoint, which is this one, and feed that data directly into your template, right? Similarly, I've done same for about, a simple heading, a description, and an image. So about dot heading. So where is this heading coming from, right? So let's see that, right? I'll just zoom in. So this is my about route, and if you're watching this, I'll just get into the JSON object. So this is the object, and as you can see, this is the heading, right? Over here is the heading, right? So as you can see, this is the heading, this is the image object, and this is the URL for that. And if you want to see description, so this is description. So in my about route, as you can see, about dot heading, about dot description, about dot image dot URL comes from this object, right? So this was the basic idea of where the data is coming from. Similarly, I've done the same thing for home route. So this is the part of your home and about route, right? Now, what are the external libraries which I'm using over here? So one is Axios, right? So Axios is one of the library or external npm package which is used to fetch data from an API endpoint. So to install that, you can simply go to your root directory and root directory folder and provide npm I or install Axios, right? Hit enter. Once that is done, navigate to your package.json and look into your dependencies. Once this is available over here, you are good to go with API fetching part. So this is the method of fetching data from an API endpoint. There are multiple methods within Axios. I'll provide the documentation link for that in the description. You can check on your own. So this is one of the method where you'll provide your method type, the URL, and the headers. There are no particular headers in this because it is publicly available, and generally it should have some kind of an API key or a secret key or something like that, but in our case it is just for the demo purpose. And this is the get. You can also provide post if it's a post call, but we'll just keep it to get. So this is one of the way you can make an API call using Axios. There are multiple ways, as I've told you. The link for that will be in the description, so do check that. And yeah, similarly I've done the same for home, making an Axios call. Basically Axios is a promised based call, so it will provide a promise. It will wait for your data until and unless it is not fetched, and if once it is fetched, you can resolve it using then and catch method. So this is your then if your data is resolved successfully, and if there's some error it will show within this. So this is the part where I am throwing the data to the home HTML template using response render method, right? So this is the part where I'm making an Axios call for both the home and about route, and the data from where the object is coming. So we are done with the routes, which is home and about. Now let's navigate to the part where we are fetching our footer and header. So in my previous video there was no folder such as middleware. In this video I'm showing you how you can create header footer using this similar method. So let's create a folder called as middleware, and within that middleware you just need to create two files. One is index.js and the second is partials.js. Basically the middleware over here is a uh, uh, header and footer template. So let's navigate to index.js. So over here I'm using the router.star method, or the parameter. Basically, irrespective of your routes, that is home or about, this specific route will be called in every home or about route. So whenever you are calling any major route, that is home or about in our case, irrespective of your routes, the template or the data which you want to render onto the page will be rendered. So it is like a default kind of a HTML page which will be rendered every time if you call your home or about, right? So this is how you can use that. And if you want more information on this, I'll put the documentation for this as well in the description. So make sure you have this code in your index.js, and let's navigate to partials.js. Now looking into partials.js, we have two dependencies within this. One is async and the second one is Axios. So for Axios, I've told you the functionality, what it does, and let's move to the async. Async basically is a npm module. Let's move to the installation process. Similarly for Axios, like npm install async. Once you hit enter, all the dependencies will be installed, and navigate to your package.json and see over here that in the dependencies section you have this. Once this is done, once this is over here, once is there, you can navigate to your partials.js and declare this variable let. And over here we are using module.export, which will directly export the functions within the async parallel array. So async parallel is basically a function which is taking an array, and that array has a bunch of functions based on your requirements. So in our requirement we have two API calls. One is for footer, one is for header, and the second one is for the footer. So basically it is two functions making two API calls at the same time parallelly using async parallel. So it is not in this manner that it will wait for the header to come and then later on it will go and fetch the footer. No, using async parallel we can directly call this to the both endpoint directly without waiting for one another. So this is the way you can use async parallel. And once you get the data, it has a callback within the uh, function which is in the then section, and that callback will take a data, and at the end of this array. So this is the end of the array, as you can see over here. It will take a function and take the data from the callback. So once the data is fetched from the endpoints, it means that it is a success. So you can use this response.locals.header, and similarly for footer, and take a variable success, that is the index 0 and index 1. So index 0 is for the header and the index 1 is for the footer. So basically within the header and the footer you will have the data in this manner. So in the header you will have the data for the header, in the footer you will have the data for the footer. Similarly in this manner itself. So let's just see. So this is your header and this is the data for it, right? So this is object JSON, object within the header, and similarly for the footer. So you can use this inbuilt function of Express to directly use this variable anywhere you want. You don't need to explicitly mention a template as we are doing in the response for about and home route. So like in this part we are mentioning that this is the home template. Go and throw the data that we have fetched from this into the home template, right? But using this response.locals.header, you can use the data which is stored within success or the header anywhere within your page. It can be your header, your home page, your footer, wherever you want. So this is the function which does that, and once this is resolved successfully, it will proceed to next, right? And if there's any error, you can catch it using try catch, right? Okay, so this is the method that uses the API for header and footer and fetching those using async parallel. So these functions are directly exported as a response locale variables and used into the header and footer template. So look the variable header and look into this footer. Now let's navigate to the views template. Let's move to the header and see header, header and header, right? So as I've told you that you can directly use those variables, that is header and footer, directly into any template you want, not just the header and footer. If you want to use that into your home route, you can do that as well. So yeah, this is one of the way you can use your header and footer to explicitly call every time irrespective of your routes. So if you want me to provide more information, or you want me to create a video on async parallel in depth, please comment down below. I'll be happy to do that. Okay, so we are done with the header and footer part. We are ready with our home and about route. Now after doing that, make sure you have a decent, or you can just copy this template for your header and footer. I'll just put the code for this in the description. You can directly use this. So this is my code for the template for header and footer. It is bootstrap, and yeah, you can use this and create your header and footer. And similarly, this is my home and about template, right? So after doing this all, after creating your middleware, calling your header and footer data and providing it into your template, once that is done, let's move to your app.js and provide this method. So just get the data from the functions where you're using, that is our routes. Mention it over here using a variable that is the home and about route. So basically this is a function which will take to your home route, and this is for your about route, right? So this is the function. Now once that is done, using the variables, you can use app.use a route and the function as a second parameter, right? So this is for our about route, this one is for about route, and this one is for the, sorry, this one is for the about route, and this one is for the home route. And this is basically your middleware, as I've told you. If you just control and click on that, you'll directly navigate to this, and if you require this, you'll get into this. So it is like interconnected. So this is basically your second parameter from where you are getting your data and rendering it to a template and things like that. So this is our home and about route and this is our middleware, that is a header and footer. Okay, so we are done with this use as well. And now let's move to the terminal and see what we have in here. That is node app.js, and hit enter. The server has started on localhost 4000. Let's navigate to localhost 4000 and see what we have in here. Yeah, so this is what we have in here: a basic header, a description, an image. This is your footer part. As you can see, this is my entire footer, the copyright, the sections we have in here. This is my header. This is going to be my about route, which is similar to the home, with a header, description, and image, and footer and header. So this header and footer will be called irrespective of your routes, right? Yeah, so this was it for this demonstration and this series entirely. If you have any complications for this entire series, or whatever you felt that this was a difficult part, please do mention down below in the comment, and I'll be looking into that and helping you out with that, right? So this was our simple website, and we'll be extending this to a more complicated thing, like a blog kind of a page. So I'm thinking of a blog format where you'll have this home route, but instead of having this about page, we'll be using a blog kind of format with dynamic routing and things like that. So stay tuned for that. I'll be releasing that soon, same. And yeah, this was it for this video, guys. The code for this will be available in the description, and if you have any queries regarding this entire series or the video itself, please do comment down below. I'll be happy to do that. And yeah, thanks for watching.